Our next fight, we have Darren the Damage Elkins taking on Jonathan Pearce. So I'm going to open it up, and this is going to be the first reference of anything. For Darren Elkins, if he's going to have success, he's kind of got to be like the title track from St. Elmo's Fire. Look at me, I'm a man in motion. He's got to really bring it together. I mean, that was a movie with Emilio, the Mighty Ducks guy, and Rob Lowe. So how about that?
I'll even throw a basketball reference. To me, Darren Elkins is like Udonis Haslem. Like, I'll see him out there sometimes, and I gotta rub my eyes to make sure someone didn't put something in my drink.
Didn't he play like a minute one season and get kicked out of that game?
Udonis Haslem guarded Jason Tatum last night, and it was like elder abuse. Like, it should not have happened.
But when you do look at this fight, Matt, for Darren Elkins, if he's going to have success, that's my point. He's got to be a man of motion and continue to just bring that storm. And he was able to do it when he took on Minner. He was able to do it when he took on Tristan Connolly. It's just takedown, takedown, takedown. Outlast his opponent, and then he just breaks them. And for Jonathan Pearce, we saw that in his UFC debut. He had that happen to him against Joe Lozon. It was threat of the takedown, hold my hands low, boxing a Joe Lozon, and then he just couldn't figure it out. But boys, Pearce looked good in his last four fights. And I went back and rewatched, all of the fights. But the one that stuck out to me, his last fight against Makwan Amirkhani, and you look at it from Makwan, what's he good at? Wrestling and front chokes. What's Darren Elkins good at? Wrestling, but not front chokes, but wrestling. But if you look at it from Makwan, every time he went for the takedown, he'd get Pearce down for just a bit of a second, and then Pearce would scramble out of it, and he'd be in his own advantageous position. Or he'd leave his head out there, and Makwan would get the front choke. And then somehow JSP would just wizard his way out of it. So JSP, you have him, you have Tracy Cortez, and then you have a fighter in Eryk Anders later on this card. They're all at a fight-ready MMA. For Pearce making that move to fight-ready, he's looked like a much better fighter. His cardio's been a question at times, like in his fight against Christian Rodriguez and some of them as well. But if you look at it, the boxing's coming a little bit, the kicks are coming a little bit, but Pearce, very much, he was a high school wrestler, and he still wrestles a heck of a lot in his fights, and he's very good at it.
I think this is a really bad fight for Darren Elkins, Craig, I'm not going to lie. Darren Elkins at this stage of his career has eliminated a lot of his own striking from his own game plan. Now, even go back to the Alexander Volkanovski fight, and I think that's an oddly good fight for Darren Elkins. I know he gets dropped in like every single round, but he does kind of hurt Volkanovski to the body with one of his odd, like, kind of switch kicks. Like, it was a weird performance. It's not often that you can praise a guy for getting dominated in a fight, but still, when you consider the level of guy he was fighting in that fight, you can take some positives from it. But you're right, when you fight Darren Elkins, it really comes down to a test of how good is your cardio and how good is your, like, not quit ability. Because there are some people who will wilt under the pressure of a guy like Darren Elkins, but that really comes down to the fact that he's not striking a lot at this stage of his career, because I think he does realize that he cuts open so easily. Like, refs are going to stop the fight if they just see Darren Elkins leaking blood, because he's one of those guys who doesn't just get, like, a little nick and then the cut man fixes it.
He's like recently released Nate Diaz.
Yeah, like, it gets really gruesome in there sometimes when Darren Elkins is fighting. And I just think his style of grappling is going to be difficult, because Pearce is a guy who will sometimes accept the momentum of your takedown to then try to get on top of you. He is a little crafty with some of his transitions on the mat, and I think those are going to be really key against a guy like Elkins. And with Elkins fighting in the way where he really weaponizes his pace and cardio, when is that going to run out? He is 38 years old, and he's taken a lot of damage. He's been in a lot of really difficult fights. I don't know how much longer he's really going to be able to go out there and weaponize his pace. It's a young man's game fighting like that.
We're going to talk about this as we go on, because this is the first of three legends fighting, and then you have a legend at the end of the card, and they all share similarities in the UFC's ranking books. But Darren Elkins is tied for 7th all-time in UFC history, regardless of weight class, with 11 decision wins. Number 1 is Neil Magny with 13, so 2 more for Elkins, and he's up there at the record. He's 10th all-time in control time at 1 hour, 52 minutes, and 45 seconds. That's 1 minute less of control time than Hall of Famer Matt Hughes, and he's also 6th all-time in total strikes landed at 2,339. Number 5 is RDA at 2,418. So Darren Elkins is in with very good company in the UFC's record books. He's one of those guys. Is he in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Is Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds going to get into the Hall of Fame? Off of that Hall of Fame, what is it? The contingent that's going to vote on that? We'll find out. But when you do look at this one, from 2015 to early 2018, Elkins went 6-0. Then his next 4 fights were Volkanovski, Lamas, Hall, and then Landwehr, and it kind of fell off. And then his last 4 fights, he beat Garagori, Minner, lost to Swanson, beat Connolly back in April, 3:30-27, 7 minutes and 52 seconds of control time to pad that number. And what I really liked out of Elkins in his fight against Connolly, you know, breaking a guy down, take him down, so on and so forth. Because Connolly,
his own game,
155, 170, but Elkins, 55 total strikes in the first round. 40 total strikes in the second, 70 total strikes in the third round. So the cardio hasn't really fallen off, even with the age that he's at right now.
I still worry, though. Like, he's not getting any younger. I know none of us are, but at 38 years old, the cardio doesn't get any better. And I know it is a bit of a weakness for Jonathan Pearce, but that's only if he's fighting at a very high work rate. And that's the thing. If these guys are fighting at a high work rate, then they're probably grappling. And I do favor Jonathan Pearce to be the more damaging grappler between these two guys. You had mentioned it. Darren Elkins is a guy who's going to wrestle a lot, but he's not going to damage you with ground and pound. He's not going to go for a lot of submissions. He'll threaten with stuff just to get into a better position and be more dominant. But if this fight ends inside the distance, it's because Jonathan Pearce has landed some really good ground and pound, or he's got a rear naked choke or something along those lines. I just think Pearce is the much younger and the much more physically strong guy in this match.
Yeah, Pearce is really big for this weight class, and for Pearce, you talk about Elkins and how legendary he is with top control and his takedowns, but for Pearce in the UFC, fights Kai Kamaka, good wrestler, 5 takedowns. Fights Omar Morales, not necessarily a grappler, 6 takedowns. Takes on Christian Rodriguez, incredibly well-rounded, just got his first UFC win, 6 takedowns, and he got 4 against Makwan Amirkhani. Performance of the night, second round TKO. Dan Mulvahedi's finishing statement was, "I've seen enough," before he waved it off. So that's tricky. We have a look at the odds in this one. And for Jonathan Pearce, he's a, holy frig, open -300, -484.
I didn't look at the odds, but I gotta be honest, I'm not surprised.
Darren Elkins open +250, +357. We have a look at the Topology votes. Surprised odds there to you. I'm going to say over under 85% JSP then. Hot shot.
I think they'll be under 85, but they'll be way above 50.
I thought they were going to be over. 1,959 total votes, 91% Pearce, 21% by decision, 65% by knockout for the 9% that have Elkins, 52% by decision, 30% by knockout. I think JSP gets the win in this matchup. A like would be appreciated on this video. It definitely would. But if you look at it for a guy like JSP, the size advantage, I don't love the cardio, and I really do. I like the old man cardio out of Darren Elkins, so maybe he's able to tough out another win like he did against Connolly, like he did against Minner. But for me, I like the grappling of JSP, and I think a game plan from a guy like DeFranco and Eddie Cha is going to get you really ready for a matchup like this.
I couldn't agree more. Again, I kind of said it to lead. I think this is a really good matchup for JSP, and he has looked really good as of late, but I still can't get over his Darren Elkins Hall of Fame. Is Dwayne Dedman going to make the NBA Hall of Fame for playing 50 seasons?
Darren Elkins, I mean, he's 3-1 his last 4 fights.